The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms, and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. Today's lesson introduces 11 characters, 8 of which contain the cover or roof radical at the top. It looks similar to the down-facing mouth in Lesson 42, but is distinct. The cover or roof in today's lesson also means to assemble, to come together as one, just as the roof completes the construction of a house. Actually, we've seen this roof or cover element before in the character Yu from Lesson 20. So let's take a quick look at it again in review. It's a thatched hut, the greater part of which is below ground to protect it from the elements. You will notice that the oracle bone drawing differs from the modern character. The modern character contains today's roof element consisting of 3 strokes, somewhat like a triangle. So, our first new character is similar, only this structure is above ground on a packed earth foundation. It's pronounced fourth tone, sh, sh. The fact that this thatched hut is uncharacteristically built above ground implies that it is less permanent and will possibly be abandoned when it's no longer needed. Our first example is a cowshed. 田地之间有一间牛舍. There's a cowshed between the 2 fields. Notice that 间 is the measure word for buildings. Chinese courtesy, and politeness in general, is often expressed by elevating the status of the listener and depreciating oneself as the speaker. The next sentence is an example of this sort of polite speech, denigrating oneself and one's home. 你们来舍下看我，我好开心. Your visit to my humble home gives me great pleasure. In order to give more examples of sh, today's second character matches well with it. And it also contains a different roof radical, one that we learned in Lesson 13. This character began as a pictogram of a person sleeping under a roof. It contains a person and his grass-filled mattress, yin, that we learned in Lesson 25. Through centuries of copying, the mattress pad turned into bai for 100. It's pronounced fourth tone, su, su. That means to stay overnight, to lodge, with extended connotations of something dormant inside, such as a long-harbored grudge, long-cherished hope, or in a religious sense, something lodging inside us from a previous reincarnation, our destiny. First, however, is its more literal meaning of a place to sleep. 他在朋友家寄宿了3个月. He stayed at a friend's house for 3 months. 我哥哥回男生宿舍打电玩. My brother went back to the men's dormitory to play video games. 工人在宿舍外面看公开信. The workers were reading an open letter outside their dorm. This next sentence is an example of the dormant within idea. 尤大夫是北京有名的宿儒. Dr. Yu is a well-known and learned scholar from Beijing. Obviously, what the phrase 宿儒 implies is that this individual has attained the level of a Confucian scholar. The master resides within him. The third character in today's lesson is a derivative of sh. In other words, it added a hand radical to distinguish it from the simple thatched hut. It's pronounced third tone, 蛇, 蛇. The most useful expressions with this character derive from the idea of a temporary dwelling soon to be abandoned. So third tone 蛇 means to abandon, throw away, forsake, part with, give something up. 您的宝贝车舍得卖吗? How can you part with your most prized possession, your car? 今天你来，家母才舍得吃肉. Our mother is willing to eat meat only because you've come. This sentence refers to the fact that many of the older generation lived through desperate times when food was scarce and meat hard to come by. Their natural tendency is to skimp and save, even after their children have provided them with a much better standard of living. 妈舍不得，可是又不得不走. Mother was reluctant to leave, but she really had no choice. 我在英国玩得好开心，舍不得回来. I was having so much fun in England that I hated to return. 她是我家的宝贝，我们舍不得打她. She's the baby in our family, and we hate to punish her. 你下不了手，你太舍不得她了. You can't do it. You can't bear the thought of living without her. He probably wants to break up with his girlfriend, and can't figure out how to do it. The fourth character is the pictogram of a granary or a storehouse with a roof overhead, a single door in the middle, and a foundation. It's pronounced first tone, 仓, 仓. A corn silo would be 玉米仓. To make a more useful expression, I'll introduce another character that pairs well with 仓. This new character is composed of 化, meaning convert or change from lesson 43, and 贝, meaning show money from lesson 34. 化 serves both as phonetic and semantic elements because this character means commodities, goods, freight, or cargo, literally things that show money can be converted to. It's pronounced fourth tone, 货, 货. This new ideogram plus 仓 produces the expression for a warehouse, 货仓. Here are three other combinations. 卖主下个月才能出货. The seller cannot ship the goods until next month. 开货车的驾驶出意外. The truck or lorry driver had an accident. 他父母从事百货的买卖. His parents deal in the buying and selling of general merchandise. 百货 literally means hundreds of items. Today's sixth character takes 仓 as phonetic and matches it with the wood radical. Being made of wood, its original meaning was a spear, lance, or javelin, but as fancier weapons made of metal were invented, it now also means a rifle, pistol, or gun. This character is pronounced first tone, 枪, 枪. If you want to get super specific, that it refers to firearms, you can switch out the wood and replace it with 金. the metal radical introduced in Lesson 42. The pronunciation doesn't change. Our first phrase is 枪手, originally a spear thrower. Now usually means a marksman, gunman, or even what we might call a hired gun, someone who sits or takes an examination in your place, for a fee, of course. Spears and javelins are not in common use today, so these next expressions refer to modern inventions. 男生在街上玩水枪. The boys were in the street shooting their squirt guns. 一开手枪，扒手马上就趴地上. One shot of the pistol and the pickpocket immediately lay face down on the ground. This does not mean he was hit, but that he was too afraid to keep running. The seventh character in today's lesson again takes 仓 as its phonetic and adds the hand radical to create a verb meaning to strike, hit, or knock, pronounced first tone, 枪, 枪. But more commonly in spoken Mandarin, it's pronounced third tone, 抢, 抢, meaning to snatch, rob, take by force, or rush to get something before anybody else. Some examples. 有人抢走了他的公事包. Someone snatched his briefcase. 他的小说成了抢手货. His novel has become a popular bestseller. Literally, a book everyone is trying to get their hands on. A 抢手的影星 is a much sought-after actor that directors are desperately trying to sign up for their movies. The eighth character also incorporates 仓 as its phonetic and adds the knife radical to indicate cutting something in two, or a knife piercing a surface, possibly the human body. Originally pronounced first tone, 疮, 疮, meaning a knife injury or a wound, it's more commonly pronounced fourth tone, 创, 创, meaning either a wound or to cut through brush and trees to clear a path forward. 我腰的手术创口全好了. The wound from the operation on my back has completely healed. More useful is 创, meaning to cut a path forward, to establish a company, found a hospital or school, or start a business. Written 开创. Here are two more examples. 全国首创的电动车. The country's first and newly invented electric car. 他拍的电影好有创意. Her films attest to her creativity. Literally, she very much has a path-beating, pioneering spirit. The ninth character in today's lesson consists of a collection of bamboo strips bound together. Recall that ancient Chinese books were written on bamboo strips. This collection of strips is pronounced fourth tone, 册, 册, and means a book, record, or register. Either way, to write it is correct, but today we're more concerned about the lower version, because it will reappear shortly as part of another character. Here are two examples of 册. 我看了一下手中的小册子. I glanced at the pamphlet in my hands. 他正在看一本电脑手册. He is reading a computer manual. The 10th character takes this bundle of bamboo strips and puts them under the cover radical to create the concept of collecting things together and arranging them in proper order. It serves as a phonetic in modern Mandarin, so we'll combine it with the speech radical and pronounce it fourth tone. Lun, lun. This combination of carefully collected and arranged speech means, as a verb, to discuss, debate, or comment on, and as a noun, it usually refers to an essay or a theory. The second tone pronunciation is basically reserved for the title of the ancient classic, the Confucian Analects, 论语. These selected sayings of Confucius were written around 2,400 years ago by followers of Confucius and are still widely studied by school children. Fourth tone, 论, is much more common, and here are several more examples. 他不负责的言论使得不少人生气. His irresponsible comments made a lot of people angry. 他是言论家，也是行动家. She's a speaker and activist. 他的书信中以论及卫生问题. In his letters, he has already discussed the issue of sanitation. A useful expression is 不论 with 也, translated as no matter, plus a question word in English. 打电玩不论多久，我父母也不生气. No matter how long I play video games, my parents won't get angry. 不论如何，你不可以动手. No matter what happens, you mustn't get physical. No shoving, punching, or touching anyone. A new four-character idiom is 就事论事, meaning literally, take the issue and discuss the issue. Or in better English, restrict yourself to the matter at hand without making irrelevant comments or personal attacks. 朋友吵架时，一定要就事论事. When friends get into an argument, keep the discussion about the issue. Avoid ad hominem attacks. The 11th character in this lesson again takes the collected bundle of bamboo strips as phonetic and adds the vehicle radical to create the character pronounced second tone. 轮, 轮, meaning a wheel. According to the explanation in my Chinese dictionary, the wheels of a vehicle must be carefully arranged and calibrated so as to avoid lopsided wheels and a bumpy ride. Hence, the Lun phonetic also contributes to the meaning. Apparently, during the Song dynasty, boats were invented using pedal-powered water wheels to propel them forward. So our first example has 货轮, the usual expression for a cargo ship or a freighter. 开往东京的货轮, a freighter bound for Tokyo. 他不得不成天坐在轮椅上. He has to sit in a wheelchair all day long. 成天, literally, to become a day means all day long. 轮流 means to rotate or take turns doing something. 我们4个人轮流开车. The 4 of us take turns driving. In Lesson 20, I introduced the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac, called 12生肖, with each animal representing 1 year in the 12 lunar year cycle of the Chinese system for calculating dates. The animals in order are the rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. The Chinese may not believe all the supposed attributes of each animal sign, but they definitely do know the animal representing the year they were born, and they use the character 轮 to refer to the number of cycles between people's ages. 你大我一轮, you're exactly 12 years older than I am. An opposite example might be 你小我2轮, you're 2 cycles, 24 years younger than me. Here is our color chart with today's 12 characters. 射 蛇 仓 抢 创 枪 侧 轮 论 速 and 火 Here's the takeaway from today's lesson. 1. Most of the characters in this lesson contain the roof or cover radical, to be distinguished from the downturned mouth in lesson 42. 2 of the characters are related to yu from lesson 20, a thatched hut mostly below ground, but the thatched hut represented by she is entirely above ground and therefore expendable when it has served its purpose. For this reason it refers to temporary lodging, and in older texts to a military encampment. 2. Chinese politeness and courtesy usually involve denigrating oneself and uplifting the listener, as in the expression for 舍下, my humble abode. 3. With the addition of a hand radical, 是 becomes 舍, splitting off from the original but retaining the idea of abandonment, giving something up, leaving it behind. The most useful expressions are 舍得 and 舍不得. 4. The character 宿 combines with 舍 to make the phrase for a dormitory. As a way to remember 宿, take advantage of the scribe's copying error and think of it as meaning 100 people under the same roof. That's a dormitory for you. Otherwise, the actual meaning is to stay overnight, to lodge temporarily, or the more abstract idea of something sleeping, dormant within us, such as aspirations, grudges, or even our fate, decided in a previous life. 5. 4 of the other characters are related to a granary or storehouse. 仓, a granary. 枪, an ancient spear or modern gun. 抢, to rob or snatch. And 创, as a noun meaning a wound, and as a verb signifying pioneering, inventive, groundbreaking, literally cutting a path forward. 6. To make phrases with 仓, we need the character for merchandise or goods, 货, as in 货仓 for a warehouse, 货车 for a truck, 出货 to ship out goods, and 百货 for daily use items you might find in a department store. 7. I needed to introduce the character for a collection of bamboo strips bound together, 侧, so that we could add the cover element to express the idea of arranging things in proper order, pronounced 轮. This phonetic also serves as a semantic element in the character 论, to discuss logically or debate, and 轮 meaning a wheel, the center of which must be well calibrated to provide a smooth ride. 8. Phrases with fourth tone 论 include 言论, speech or comments, 论及, to broach a topic, 不论 meaning no matter who, what, when, or where, and the idiom 就事论事, cautioning against making irrelevant comments. 9. Expressions incorporating second tone lun include huolun, a freighter or cargo ship, lunyi, a wheelchair, lunliu, to take turns, and lun as one 12-year cycle of the Chinese zodiac. Now you will find a short quiz on double, triple character, and longer expressions. Answer using only the characters learned so far. Thank you for watching and listening.